Today, we are going to talk about the Pan-Africanists and the Pan-Africanism that we have in Africa today. I am having a very tough question for all the Pan-Africanists wherever they are. There are many things that we have said and they have said, especially concerning Africa. And this video has been motivated by the fact that I released a video that was entitled, "Did the missionaries pave the way for the colonizers?" When I asked that question, I saw a lot of people commenting, and I saw a lot of people watching that video, and I've been prompted today to face and to take the bulls by its own horns, especially with the Pan-Africanists. There are several claims that they have concerning Africa. In fact, I am going to highlight 7 of them, and then if they have the answers, and they have the answers to the question that I'm going to ask after highlighting the 6 or the 7 claims, then I'll be glad to hear your comments in the description below, in the comments below. Let me begin quickly by highlighting what the Pan-Africanists have said. And these are the following claims. I have written them down, and the first one is that the oppressor and the oppressed cannot share the same faith, the same Bible, and the same religion. I repeat, Pan-Africanists have said that the oppressor and the oppressed cannot share the same belief, the same faith, and the same religion. That question is very key, and I'm going to ask the question in the end. Yes, these claims are very sensitive, and these claims are based on what our ancestors underwent. And you know, they've gone even to the second claim, that Africa is dark continent. There is nothing good in Africa to be emulated. The Pan-Africanism claimed that the whites and the colonizers, when they came, they claimed that this continent is dark, and this continent, there is nothing so pleasing in it. In fact, they are going to say that even to depict Satan and to depict demons, they are called dark, or they are called black. Yes, they've even gone to an extent of saying that all the angels that we know of, maybe have seen, all of them are white. In fact, to them, to make the matter worse, the black color is the color of mourning and the color that we use when we go for funerals. That is why they have this claim and they have this argument that Africa have been tarnished to be blacks. Yes, we have black hair. We have what we call hardest hairs, if there's that language. And that is their second claim, that Africa is not a dark continent, and Africa is, at least there's light in Africa. The third thing that even they go on to say, especially when they talk of Africa, they've said that even Jesus Christ, the Messiah, was not African. In fact, they have gone to an extent of saying that Jesus Christ is white. And you know, this Bible and this gospel does not belong to Africans. It belongs to the whites. I am assuming you are correct. And I want to believe that all the allegations and all the accusations and all the claims against Africa by the Pan-Africanists is true. Then let me go to another thing that the Pan-Africanists have been mentioning, and they have been pushing this agenda. They are saying after the colonialists left, Africa is still sidelined that Africa is still undergoing what we call neo-colonialism. Yes, the colonizers have gone, some of the missionaries have remained, some still come, but we still have what we call neo-colonialism in Africa. In the name of, today, for you to travel another continent, then you'll have to have visa or passport. The whites or the Westerners on the other side do not need anything to come to Africa. Maybe it is just some very short legal processes that are not stringent like the ones we Africans face, especially when we want to go to the West. So neocolonialism is still here with us. That is a claim that we have, and that is the claim that the Pan-Africanists have. Another thing is that slavery is still on in another mode today. That there are some things that are supposed to be used by the whites only, and there are some things that are supposed to be used by the blacks or the Africans. Another claim is that Christianity is dying at a very alarming rate. The Pan-Africanists say that Africa tradition religion is the way to go, because before the colonizers and before the missionaries came, we used to have our beliefs. I want to believe and I want to assume I'm joining your league, but I have one question as I highlight these claims, and I'll be asking this question. Another thing that we have heard the Pan-Africanists say is that instead of Jesus Christ and instead of God dealing with Satan once and for all, why did he have to kill Jesus instead of killing Satan? And even after killing Jesus, we still have prevalence of sin in our world today. According to their claim, is that does not make sense at all. And you know, when you see and scrutinize these claims from African point of view, they seem so valid and they seem so real. In my previous videos, I've talked about if God knew that Satan is going to betray him and Satan is going to want to overthrow him, then why did he create him? And I remember sharing this answer, that God who is all holy, God who is invincible and invisible, cannot even equate with Satan and cannot even have a match or war with Satan. But because God created him, he had to devise another pure way of dealing with him, because he gave him free will of choice. Like we also have been given free will of choice to choose whether to believe or not. Yes, they are claiming that we are at an alarming rate. We are going back to what is called Africa tradition beliefs. But I have one question as I go to conclude. Now, they are also still blaming the underdevelopment and the impoverishment of Africa to the Western. But I still have question again, and it is all one question altogether that will summarize the entire argument. And you know, the blame game is still on. That the reason why we are not progressing as Africans is because of the Westerners and because of what they are planning against us in terms of bargain, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of manufacturing, and so forth and so on. Today I'm asking this question. Yes, you've said that the gospel that we received was from the oppressor. Yes, we've gone to the extent of saying that the demons are depicted and Satan is depicted as black and is the prince of darkness, like the way we are dark. Yes, you've gone to the extent of saying the oppressor cannot share the same Bible, the same faith, and the same belief, and the same religion. Yes, you've said that. But I have one question for all the Pan-Africanists who are watching me and who are listening to me today. What have we done best to make sure that these claims don't stand as we claim? For example, now that you've said that the Bible was meant for the oppressor and we as the oppressed, do we have a way of unifying all of us as Africa by having maybe a one Bible that is called Africa Bible Religion, for example? What have we done based now that the colonialists and the colonizers have left? What are we doing best to improve Africa instead of the blame game that we see around? This question, if I get an answer, then I'll be very glad to hear from you in the comment below. Otherwise, I have gathered at least 7 reasons why we are not where we are as Africa, and we cannot blame anyone because it is our own undoing, as I said when I released that previous video that was entitled, "Did the Missionaries Pave Way for the Colonizers?" Having said that, let us go quickly and see how Africa is still having a long way to go when it comes to AU, when it comes to either USA, that is United States of Africa. And I have subdivided into 7 areas. Area number 1 is that Africa generally, we are fragmented in terms of regions. We have regions of the West, we have the regions of the East, the Northern region, the Southern region, and the Central region. And during one meeting in the AU meeting, one person and one official said the following, that if we are going to have these regions have their own way of doing things, then we are going to experience Africa rise again. And they gave, for example, if the Northerners are going to have what we call the North Africa Federation, and they devise a means of how they are going to do it by themselves in the Northern, and that is the Sub-Sahara, for example, then they are going to rise. And you know, one of their very own and one of our very own by the name Gaddafi tried that. And we saw what was happening during the times of Gaddafi. On the southern part, we are going to have, he proposed that if we are going to have the United Southern States of Africa, the United Southern States of Africa, then they are going to come up with a plan that is going to bring them together, and so that they are going to work together. For example, I come from the East here in Kenya. The East Africa community, for example, and we nowadays have what we call the East Africa Community Anthem. Then we are going to devise a way where we are going to work together as the Easterners in the East Africa community. And then the Central Africa Federation will have their own way of doing things in their own jurisdiction. And then the Westerners, again on the west side, when they're going to have what we call West Africa Federation, then we are going to improve. But because we are fragmented regionally and we have subdivision amongst ourselves, then it means we still have a long way to go. Another area that we see is in the cultural beliefs and traditions, cultural traditions and beliefs. The Easterners have their own ways, the Northerners have their own ways, the Southerners, the Centralers, and the Westerners, they have their own ways of doing culture and their traditions and their beliefs, for example. If you are going to marshal that, but we realize that in Africa, we are divided in that area, culturally and tribally speaking, and even concerning the traditions that we have in our segment or in our regions. Another area that we see is that Africa, we have a lot of languages. Can we say we want to have one language as Africa? Is it possible? I'm just asking. When you go to the West, they have their language. When you go to the South, the North, the East, the Central, they have their languages. So I don't know what we are going to do so that we come up with one language. And when I talk of language here, I want to use an example that is found in the Bible, though some of us have rejected even the context of the Bible. In Genesis 11, we realize that God recognized the unity of the people who are building the Tower of Babel. And because God realized their unity of purpose and their unity to make for themselves a name, then God confused them and gave them other languages. I'm trying to say, can we have a language that is called African language, for example? And if not African language, can we have the African federations and the African communities languages that we are going to say that this is the common language that we are going to use? But at the moment, we have a lot of sub-tribes and tribes in Africa that even cannot speak even one language. That is just my suggestion. Another area that we realize that we are facing problem as Africa, and I remember mentioning this in my previous video, that while other continents are experiencing tornadoes, hurricanes, and the likes, and you know, Africa, we are experiencing what we call political damage. And politically speaking, every politician, almost just but a few, are interested in the welfare of their fellow countrymen. But most of them have their own agendas and they have their own businesses that they want to fulfill. And that is why they want to rise to power. And you know, because of political interest and because they want to secure their businesses, they want to secure their empire, there are no way they are going to even understand the common countrymen. And you know, this has become our problem as Africa. We've seen leaders who want to remain in power and to want to enjoy power without even thinking of the countrymen and their fellow countrymen. You know, the level of corruption, the level of cartelism, the level of bribery, and the level of selfishness, the level of betrayal is seen even in the political arena. And you know, because politics most of the time are dirty games, we've seen how people play dirty games to ensure that they remain in power for so long. Even if they are going to betray their fellow countrymen, let it be so, because they have their own selfish interest and selfish agenda that they are pursuing. And that is one problem we've seen in Africa, that people don't want to establish what is right, and people don't want to build others because of selfishness. Sometimes we blame the West, sometimes we blame anyone. But I am asking this: what have we done best to bring us together, politically speaking? And you know, I once heard of one of the Pan-Africanists who once said that there is no democracy in Africa. And somehow I want to believe and I want to agree with him that those who are in power are fulfilling their agenda, and sometimes even the agenda of other people. And this Pan-Africanist was saying the following, that if you combine a nation that has kakistocracy, that is wrong people in power, and you include also kleptocracy, that these people who are wrongly placed in these governments, they have a tendency of stealing from the same government and stealing from the people. And I want to concur with him because that is the reality that we are facing. Because you want to betray your fellow man in the name of you want to build something, or in the name that you are going to receive some very good kickbacks, then you better betray your own people. That is so sad of Africa, and that is so sad of many countries in Africa. Another area is that we've seen, apart from cultural segmentation and apart from being divided in terms of culture and tribes and even traditions, then we have these religions also. We have the Islam, we have the Christianity in most parts of Africa. In fact, others don't believe in Christianity, don't believe in Islam, others believe in Africa traditional religions. But with the current trend where we have westernization and where we have development, it is fading out slowly by slowly. I don't know what is your view, but that is what I believe that is happening in Africa. And as we continue to embrace what other nations are doing, then our ATR, our beliefs as Africa traditional religion is fading away. Others have paganistic beliefs. Others have what we call, they have syncretized the Christianity, and they have syncretized the Christianity and the Africa tradition belief, because they have their own beliefs with themselves they are following. And another area that Africa needs to check and Africa needs to unite is economically speaking. If you are going to have a currency, a trademark, or for example, the way of doing businesses together as Africans from the West, from the East, from the North, from the South, and even from the Central, then we are going to do good. A good example here is the BRICS that was released recently. The BRICS currency, and that from the word even BRICS, we have Brazil, we have Russia, we have India, we have China, we have South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, we have United Arab Emirates. These 9 countries, they've come up with one currency that is called BRICS. And of course, their main agenda is to make sure that they have it against the dollar. And somehow it seemed to be working. But I was asking myself, how many African countries are in the BRICS? For example, even Kenya. I don't know if Kenya have enlisted to be among the BRICS. I don't know. But meanwhile, what are we doing as Africans? And what are we going to have, especially as we continue to work together as Africans? Just imagine if Africans are going to have these financial bargain even in the IMF. But because of the selfish interests, the World Bank, IMF, and many other avenues where Africans can borrow their money or Africans can have their bargain of certain product. And because of selfishness, we've not even developed ourselves in terms of infrastructure, in terms of production, agriculture production, in terms of processing, manufacturing, in terms of innovation and creativity, in terms of even promoting artistic skills, promoting skills that we need to have. How I wish that our Pan-Africanists could marshal this power and could tell us what we are supposed to do, especially when it comes to Africa. As they say, Africa is so rich in natural resources, rich in minerals, rich in talents, rich in sports, rich in arts. I tell you, but because we are fragmented or we are segmented and we are not divided, we are not united but divided, then there is nothing much that we can do. But we pray that as we push this activism of Pan-Africanism, I wish that we could answer this question. What are we doing best to improve Africa? What are we doing best to make sure that Africa is rising? I have just shared this, but a few, even including our education system. What are we doing to make sure that our academic system, now that we have scholars, we have professors, we have scholarly people, the elites in the society are here with us today, but what are we doing so that we make sure that even our academic systems and our academic programs, it can suit even world-class academics? I have just shared about a few, but I believe you can share also in the comment below. What are your views concerning the Pan-Africanist claims? These claims, of course, they are very, very sensitive claims, but I'm just asking, for example, what solutions are we offering, or what best can we offer as solutions to these claims? If you have those answers, then I'll be glad to hear them in your comment. Until next time, my name is 𝙎𝙪𝙗𝙚. Feel free to subscribe, feel free to comment, and feel free to share. And God bless you.